Hey, Megan, welcome to Keep What You Earn.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Excited to have you. Now, our listeners just heard a quick introduction about you. Would you mind just saying hello to everybody listening and let them know what it is that you do?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Meghan Clor, and I am the founder of AutomateMe. We're a digital marketing agency, and really what we do is we help people get more clients online instead of just visibility and likes. So we help them get people who are going to grow their bank account and do it in a way that doesn't burn them out.
I love the sound of that.
Yeah.
And I love that you said not just visibility, but actually having it be profitable. Can you just talk for a little bit about some of the misconceptions around, especially social media, and the fact that people are chasing more reach, more views, more
Mhm.
visibility for the sake of it?
Yes, yes. So that's something I call that the recipe for burnout because it's where you're constantly chasing the algorithm, you're chasing the trends. You're just one moment you're doing this, then there's this shiny object over here, and you're on this hamster wheel, but then at the end of the day you go to bed and you're like, I feel like I got nothing done, but I was so busy all day on trying to hack the
Yeah.
algorithm. Versus when you start getting way more intentional about who your client is and who that ideal avatar is and speak only to them, it doesn't matter what type of content you do. It doesn't matter if you do a carousel, if you do a reel, if you do whatever. It's going to land with that paying client, that person who has that problem right now and is just looking for the right person to solve it for them.
Mm.
And that makes such a difference.
It does, and I think that, because there's a difference between the visibility and, like, the right type of visibility. Because I know a lot of things will get you visible, like, there's
Yes.
controversial content or things that go viral or trends and things that will help you get reach, but, what is the point of the reach? Like, how should people be directing their desire for reach? If they wanna get more reach, what are the, I guess, good reasons to seek that out?
Absolutely. So one thing that I always like to focus on like with my clients is we dial in their messaging first because if you get a bunch of visibility and all you're focused on is getting eyeballs on your page, if you don't have like a mini funnel system where you're actually getting new followers to DM you and ask you about your paid offers, what's the point of getting more eyes to your page? So that is the very first place to focus on is like even with the followers you have now, even if you have a small account, you can get a lot of clients from that. And once you land that messaging and you know what's going to get them to want to reach out to you, then heck yeah, go try some of these viral trends and try these things to get even more visibility for that particular client. And then you'll get more leads instead of just more likes.
Yeah, and how important is it to have something measurable to measure your performance on social media and like what success looks like?
So there's a lot of different things you can measure, and there's the vanity metric, so there's how many views you got and how many likes, and I see so many people, they beat themselves up over that because 'cause they're like, "I spent so much time and I poured my heart out with this piece of content and it got, like, 2 likes or something."
Yeah.
But when you focus instead on what's going to actually get somebody to want to opt into your, freebies or to direct message you asking you how to work with you, it changes the game. So the metrics that I like to measure are leads and sales.
Yeah. Love that.
The other, it's just a bonus, and it shouldn't be the primary focus because otherwise you're going to be hustling all month long and not have enough income at the end of the month to justify all of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are measuring their success based on how many, things they can push into the machine. Meaning
Mm,
how many eyeballs are on their content or how much exposure they're having and how many potential leads there are in this giant vast ocean, right? How many people
right.
actually saw you? And we shove that into a machine. But if the machine isn't working,
Yes.
if the machine isn't functioning, then they're falling out of it anyway. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how many go into the machine if the machine doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many like I see that a lot of just like plugging those money leaks, basically, because yeah, they're if you're focusing too much on the wrong metrics, or just like you said, you're trying to be everywhere and you're on all these different platforms, but you have the type of messaging that's just what I like to call is like likable content. So you might get people hitting the like button or saying like that's so inspiring, but that's all. They never take a next step with you. And you don't work for these social media platforms. We don't work for Instagram, so we're not supposed to be there for free just pumping out content. We have businesses to run. So we have to have that intention behind it. Otherwise, it just becomes like an extra job we're doing for free.
Yeah, and it's very time consuming because
Yes,
like you said, it's constantly changing. There
right.
are people who make their entire business, Instagram consulting or like what you
Mhm.
do in marketing, right? Like your job, part of your job may be to follow these trends and understand what's going on and understand the algorithm, so to speak, this black box, right? This
Right.
the algorithm, which is like the
I
Wizard of
know.
Oz, right? The but it's to understand the
Um,
trends and understand what's working, what isn't working, and what direction it's going in. I understand that, but like I'm an accountant.
yeah.
I'm not good at following that stuff. I don't have interest in it, but I have to show up on these platforms to drive the outcomes I want, right?
Mhm.
And and I just feel like there's not enough time in the day for us to be the marketers and the face and the technician and the manager.
Yeah.
It's just a lot, and I think that's where the burnout comes from. Do you agree?
100%. And I mean, that's why a lot of our clients come to us because it's like you already you have your craft, you have that thing that you're great at. You're
Mhm,
amazing at accounting and helping people with their numbers and understanding how to keep more of their money, right?
mhm.
But then to also need to wear the hat of being the marketer and being the social media manager and being like and knowing all of these skills, it is really time consuming. And that's where a lot of people get trapped and they don't end up growing because they're trying to wear all the hats instead of
Exactly.
delegating to other people, and then they can do more of what they do best, working with their paying clients.
Yeah, and I think that let's talk too about the type of content because we
Mm,
talk about getting more views, getting more eyeballs on it, but I'm not going to lie, like we know what gets eyeballs and it's like controversy, anything that's like god forbid graphic or like something that's just
mhm,
like oh my god, like shocking.
right.
But you don't always want to be kind of dangling that carrot, so to speak. You don't want to be, throwing out that clickbait.
Mhm.
You want to be aligning it to your message, right? So how can people balance out well, I want more people to see my content, but I also need to share my message.
Yes. So once you know, like what I usually like to do is dial in like 3 types of marketing angles that work to calling your ideal client avatar. And once you know those 3 things, for instance, like, if somebody's in the health and wellness space, they might think like their mindset is like their huge transformation in their fitness program or their health program. But what their ideal client wants is like they just want to fit into their jeans again. So it's like that's the hook, that's the angle that's going to call in that person when they have that problem right then and there. Once you know those things, you can literally repeat the same 3 things over and over again with your content in different types of ways and end up bringing in the right people into your mini funnel. And that's what social media is. If you treat it like a mini funnel where people brand new to you find out about you, they go to your page, they binge consume a few pieces of your content to see if they want to follow you, and that content actually gets them to be like, "Oh wow, she does this as a living. Oh wait, there's more that she does that I can work with her directly. Let me direct message her and see what that next step is." If you open people's minds to that, it's the possibilities are endless with your content.
Yeah, I look at it as like when you have a certain purpose to your content. And I think that a lot of people don't have a purpose to
Yeah,
it. Like
totally.
if I went up to I would say most entrepreneurs, or
Mhm.
many of them at least, and I say, "What is the point of your Instagram?" I don't know if I get a really clear answer to that. Like, I don't know
Mm,
if it's like, how does it fit into your business and what objectives do you have with your Instagram? And again, if you were to ask me, I'm not making a ton of direct sales on Instagram. My goal with Instagram is to show up and show my personality and to give people a place to land when, let's say, I pitch a podcast or somebody
right.
wants to check out my show and they're just like, who the hell is this chick? Right.
Mhm.
It's kind of the who the hell is this chick landing spot for people to
Right.
find out the answer to that question. And I'm like, that's what it's for. And if
Yeah.
I happen to make some friends in the DMs along the way, amazing. But it's not a core part of my funnel in the sense that it's not hooked up to the machine with like the only hose. It's not the only hose going into the machine, I should say.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that yes, you can DM me and I can give you my freebies and we can learn more about my offers, but uh it's just a place for you to scratch that itch of curiosity when you find out about me or we meet or everyone
Right.
just kind of Googles you, and then like looks for you on Instagram to see what's going on.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's so important is just what you mentioned. It's like what's your intention behind social
Yeah.
media? Because there's different things that you can do it for. Like you just mentioned, if that's not one of your main objectives, is like, hey, I want to use this to get clients, but it's to build credibility and to build your brand, and you have all these other things, people are 100% going to go there to see, okay, is she legit? What is she talking about? Do I like, another instance, like liking a personality, for instance, if you are running ads. I say this to people all the time. A lot of times people only run ads or they only do organic. And you're hurting yourself in that process if you're not combining the two. Because if somebody sees an ad, they're a brand new cold person, they're going to go check you out on social media to see like, oh wait, do I want to take her up on this offer? And if your content is strategic and it brings them into that, it basically builds that know, like, and trust factor for you in a very quick period of time when you do it intentionally.
Yeah, but I think the no part of that, like if you don't even let them know you because you don't have content, then they can't get to the like and trust. So there has to be a balance of, people go gangbusters with like, I must post every day in order to be known, liked, and trusted, right?
Yeah.
But there's a happy medium somewhere. Can you talk about content production volume and like how that plays into it with, do you have to be posting frequently to feel like you're getting traction? Can you achieve results with, a really low amount of content, or is it not even worth the trouble if you're not posting a certain amount of times a day or a week?
So my strategy with that, and what I always recommend to clients, is getting a few pieces of winning content, kind of going back to the idea of like finding out what those winning angles are and having those be, for instance, on Instagram, pin those to the top of your profile. That way, no matter what, even if you take a break from social media, even if you don't post consistently, when people land on your page, they're going to consume those first few pieces of content. So it gives you an evergreen strategy on a platform that's not really evergreen. And if you do that, like bare minimum, and then it goes back to your intention. If you're looking to grow and you're looking to build volume and numbers, obviously posting more is going to help you do that. Not only because you're posting more often, but you're also going to learn faster what's working and what's not working to call in your ideal person. And then as far as I like to say just whatever you can stick with consistently. So if that's like 3 times a week, even if it's 1 time a week, just to like, when somebody brand new lands on your page, it's not like, oh wow, she hasn't posted in a month, I wonder if she's still in business.
Yeah, you just want to show, I call it the sign of life.
Yes.
Like, just a sign of
Yeah.
life is good. Like, she's got a pulse.
Yes. I'm still alive. I'm here.
She's still around. It also gives the impression too that like, if I DM this person, I'll get a response. Like if this is a dead channel, then I'm not going to bother engaging with it. So it's actually, it's counteractive. So I feel like you have to have a sign of life, but you also, another big thing for me is I made it an intention in the last quarter or so, and I've been pretty consistent about this, is spending less time on social media consuming and more time strictly engaging.
Yes.
And if I don't have time to create content, I do make time to intentionally engage with 5 to 10 accounts a day.
I love
Or
that.
twice, 3 times a week, I go on and I say, if I don't have a content idea, I am going to go on and find 5 to 10 accounts of people I follow, people who I'd love to work with, the people I'd love to work with also follow.
Yes.
And I would go and intentionally engage and just chat with, DM, engage with their content to start conversations. If my house isn't the greatest for a house party, I'll go to your party.
Yeah, go make some friends over at the other party. It's so smart. Yeah, I agree. I see people a lot of times get in this trap of just scrolling and scrolling, but then a lot of times that also makes you feel like you're further behind and you beat yourself up, and then you're overthinking your content, and then you're not even posting, you're not doing, and you're moving further and further away from what you really were intending to do in the first place. But when you go on those accounts with that intention, for one, you're making new friends at a different party, but you're also doing market research because you can pay attention to what these people are saying in this person's comments. And all of a sudden that can become like 10 more content pieces for you because they're asking these questions or saying they have these struggles, and you don't even have to overthink it. You just like, okay, I can write on that. I can talk about that.
Yeah. And like I said, if I have a sign of life in my profile, chances are when we're commenting, I mean, how many times have you seen a comment that maybe you engaged with, and then you go, let me see who the hell this person is.
Exactly. You're like, first you're like, wait, who is this stranger? And then you're like, oh, they seem cool. Okay.
Yeah. I actually made a few friends that way where they were like, yeah, I saw your comment on a post and I clicked your name and I was like, this chick seems cool, and I followed you. And I'm like, you know what? That's better than a reel.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you get a follower out of a comment. People not like don't knock these strategies because it's like, and honestly, I wouldn't even call it, yes, it's a strategy, but it's also, I think it's just like, it's social media. It
Yeah,
kind of makes it more fun and less burnouty when you're like, I just have to go on and intentionally have a pleasant interaction with this
right?
many people, and it doesn't really like make you be creative or put you out of your comfort zone. You just can kind of go to those posts where you're like, I really enjoyed that. Tell them.
Right. I know,
Say
such a simple
something.
thing, oversimplifying, like, yeah, simplicity converts all day long, and yeah, social media is there to be social, and we've forgotten that. We've gotten so scared of the algorithm, and there's a lot of accounts out there too that kind of push that fear, like, "Oh my gosh, this changed. Now we all have to do this." And then
Mhm.
everyone freaks out and they lose track of the basic things that have been around long before social media ever existed.
Yeah.
Networking, being social with people, building relationships. Like, yeah, I love that you mentioned that.
You know what? And come to think of it, I have a little like an anecdote of how that worked unintentionally. Like, I
Yeah,
really didn't plan on this to happen, but I just got back from the scaling workshop with the Hormozis,
nice.
and I went to that, and Layla was doing a Q and A, and I asked a question, and I asked the question, and she goes, "That was a really insightful question, Shannon." And I was like, "What?" You should see my jaw on the floor. I was like,
Like
"You knew my
what?
name." I was like holding the microphone and I was like, "You knew my name." And she goes, "Yeah,
Aw,
I see you on Instagram all the time." I'm
aw,
always commenting on her stuff and I always DM her back on her stories. I always submit questions. I love engaging with her content, but I just engage. I've never asked really for anything. I
yeah,
ask questions, I contribute to the stuff, and I just go, "Yeah, keep crushing. You're doing great. Love your content." And I didn't even know she knew it was still me, like connected it to my
yeah.
handle or anything. But I'm telling you, again, handle being the name, number one,
Mhm.
because it's like she sees my name constantly. And then I was like, yeah, I'm coming to the workshop. So excited. She's like, so excited to see you. And I was like, she's not going to, like, that little bubble on Instagram is so
Right.
tiny. Like, nobody
I
knows your
know.
face. She saw me and she said, hi, Shannon. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And
I
that's a really
love
cool
that.
moment. It doesn't have to be like the Homrosies or like somebody else that you look up to. It can
Yeah.
be a peer that you run into at an event, like the events that we go to. It's just like running into you, and you already have a brand. You already have a presence in that room just because you have shown up and you've interacted with people.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for saying that because it's so powerful, and we underestimate it, that just commenting on people's stuff, and not only that, but like if you reverse it on her end and how special that made you feel because she paid attention and because she's noticing, we can do that more on our own accounts too. It's like, oh wow, okay, it's just like one random comment, who cares? But it's like, no, that's another person on the other end, that when you make them feel seen and you're commenting back, they're like, oh wow, you actually paid attention to me. And it's like, it's building. it,
Yeah. I've
it
done
can
that
be
before where
so
I've
simple.
messaged someone and said, I noticed you comment a lot and I really appreciate it. You have really insightful thoughts. And that starts a conversation. And that doesn't
Yeah.
take much time to do. And I think people are, you know, social media can take a lot of time. It
Hmm.
can.
Yeah.
But I think that we're spending it in some of the wrong places. And that's what's causing the burnout. I think that when
Yeah.
you don't enjoy it and you're doing it because you feel like you have to produce,
Hmm.
then it can get burnout focused. And I think that we're overlooking, I think, what Instagram actually wants us to do, which is engage.
Yeah. Right? It's going back to the basics again of like, okay, all of these social media platforms, the reason they're around is to connect people and to be social and to have people interacting with each other. So, yeah, stop overthinking content and start connecting more. And if you think, whenever I get like in a creative slump or something, for me personally, like my ideal client is somebody who, is 5, 10 steps behind me in all the things that I've learned with marketing and messaging. So I'm just like, okay, what would my previous self really need to hear in this moment? And just
Yeah.
write a letter to your past self. And a lot of times those things just resonate so much. And that's where you get people being like, oh my gosh, you're in my brain. How did you know that? Yeah, it's just trying to actually connect to one person.
Perfect. And so along that line, like you just mentioned, it's kind of tapping into that, oh my God, how are you like in my brain right now?
Yeah.
And I think that also solicits or elicits the response of the engagement. People feel compelled to engage when they're like, oh my God, you totally get me. Let's
Hmm.
be best friends, like that stepbrothers moment, right? Like, did we
Yeah.
just become best friends? Like, that's so cool that you think that too.
Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk about messaging. that
Okay.
because we need to engage more. We need to be present. We need to have a sort of strategy and a purpose to our social. But now we get into like, okay, yes, all those things.
Hmm.
What the hell do I say?
Yeah.
What do I actually write? What do I actually comment? What do I actually put in my content that will help attract an ideal client? What is some of your advice on really targeting your messaging and having effective messaging?
Hmm. So one thing I would say is moving away from just the likable 3 tips for XYZ type content. Yes, you can use that and that's good for information and to let people know your brand and what you're about. But the problem with those is somebody can save it. And how often do we ever go back to our saved pieces of content? Very rarely. I don't
Never.
think I ever have. But it, it doesn't, it closes the loop because you're giving that person step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, check, done, and they have no reason to message you. They have no reason to reach back out to you versus when you have what's called like an open loop with your marketing and, like curiosity marketing, basically. Like think about somebody who's wearing a certain pair of earrings and they're just talking about like, oh my gosh, these were the most amazing earrings ever. I got such a great deal on them. I love them. But you don't say where you got them. Everyone's going to be leaning in. They're like, wait, but where'd you get them? How much were they? So they have more questions for you. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make is they try to give all the information in one pretty package. And then that, for one, doesn't lead to engagement and people asking questions. And two, it doesn't lead to that next step of building that relationship. So
Yeah.
if you can figure out how to give them basically mindset shifts or things to think about without giving them the whole solution,
Mhm.
that's a great way to attract more people into your circle where they want to know even more from you.
Yeah, or like just a conversation starter that happens,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, I also love, and tell me what you think about this. I also love the idea of asking more questions, like putting
Mm,
questions out and getting like, I want your opinion. What do
yeah.
you think? What would you do? I want your advice. And I
Yeah.
actually, to your point, what you just said, showing up as the expert.
Hmm.
But if somebody doesn't have an appetite because you've already shared your expertise, I go, what about the idea of making them into the expert? And you're going, hey, I need your help with something, or I really
Hmm.
value your opinion. Can you help me with this? I feel like there's a lot that could be unpacked there too.
Yes, that is the idea is our accounts aren't about us. I mean, yes, there's the branding and everything for you as the main person behind the brand, but when you make your account more so about your audience and making them look good, making them feel good, all of those things, that's what builds up that relationship. And when you position something like that, then you're giving them a platform to be like, oh, wait, I know the answer to this. And it feels good. Everybody loves helping people. I think that's why social media has gotten so big with so many experts and people wanting to share what they've learned because deep down, like we want to make an impact. We want to help people. So yeah, I think that's a phenomenal way to build that.
And easy. You don't have to
Yeah,
make
right?
three tips for anything. Like
Yeah. You're like,
you
I'm
could,
actually curious about this.
yeah, you also could know the answer, you know,
100%. Yeah.
or just put up like, what do you think if you had to give 3 tips on, for example, if it's your content, Megan,
Hmm.
if you had to give 3 tips, you could type on your Instagram, right? Like if you had like, hey guys, 3 tips to grow on social without burnout, what do you think they are?
Yeah.
Like now you actually, that's actually a good one. I'm going to take that. You
I know.
know? I think we
Totally.
have to do more of that too, of just like truly engaging with the audience and getting more creative. I think that when you put out this static content, it's not inviting
It's not.
it's not inviting your audience into a conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, we have way too much information out there. People are in information overload. We don't need more information. We need more relationships and we need more trust. Like there's also a lot of things out there where you don't know, is this person real? Is it a bot? Is it? So anything you
Oh
can
yeah.
do to stand out in that way, it goes a really long way with people.
So my like hands in the air, fire, heart comments are not going very far.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
it,
just feel like that's kind of like the bot kind of comments in a sense. Like it's kind of that quick little thing, but I think if you can comment with more intention, it's ideal, right? And
mhm.
then talk to me though. You brought up the bots thing, and you brought up like we use ManyChat. A lot of people are using ManyChat.
Yeah.
What are some? I mean, have you had clients that use it effectively? What have you seen with regard to like the benefits, the drawbacks, is it working? Is there any concern over it now with this kind of like new update they posted about calls to action? What are you seeing from your clients in marketing, and whether or not like DM automation is really working?
Yeah. I DM automation can be a big time saver, 100%. However, it's similar to ads. I don't recommend doing it until you've already started to get some conversions talking to people. Because if you don't know what's going to convert people in the DMs, if you go and automate that process and you maybe get like 2 DMs and it's just crickets, it's like you learn from actually talking to people. You learn from getting on the phone with people. You learn from hosting challenges with people and having them ask questions. Like, we need that interaction first and foremost before we automate.
Yeah.
And a lot of people try to automate way sooner. And I've had clients like that they've come on, to work with me on social media strategy. And they start out with, well, I already have my ManyChat system set up, but I'm not getting any DMs. I'm like, let's start out with they spent hours putting this whole automation together. I'm like, let's start out with getting you DMs, and then you can come to that and automate it once you've got that process down.
Yeah. I like to say, like, do the unscalable till it's not scalable,
I love
until you
that.
can't do
Yeah.
it. That's a Nick Harder special.
Oh,
he
there you go.
told me back in the day. He was like, do what's not scalable till it's not scalable. And I have actually gone, this is a whole nother episode I'm going to record later, but I've turned away from a lot of automation and undone a lot of our automations because I was like, it's just not enough volume to justify the automation in the sacrifice of the relationship.
Right. Yes. And the place, like for instance, one of my clients, it wasn't until she was probably getting like 40 plus comments on her lead gen posts each day that she implemented an automation with ManyChat. And now, of course, it's a time so she's like, this is the best thing ever. I'm saving so much time. However, we were working together for like a year, dialing in like the right things that were going to get people to raise their hand, the right things that were going to get people to convert to a call in the DMs, and all of that stuff. Otherwise, just like you said, you're sacrificing the relationship, and then what's the point?
Yeah, you have to prove that what you're doing works to begin with, and then you're saving time by doing this, as opposed to, in fact, you're actually spending more time to program it, and you're not even sure if it's going to work yet. So you're not investing the time in the place where you probably should be, which is just informing the relationships.
Yes.
We overly automate. That's a whole separate topic, but we overly automate everything that doesn't need to be automated until it's a problem. And we just think, oh, automation is better than not automating. And I'm starting to see this. I'm like, that's not always the case, because when you're automating relationships, you're sacrificing a bit of that connection and that experience that you're giving people. So I totally agree.
Yeah. Our company is called AutomateMe, but like a big part of it is not doing that too soon, because it's the same in like the course creator coaches industry. A lot of times people are like, I just want to build my course and I want to do an evergreen webinar and I want to sell it on autopilot and like go sit on the beach and watch the money roll in, right? That's the dream. But the fastest way to know how to pitch somebody on what your offer is to get on a phone call with them. And a lot of times people are so scared of that. I'm like, I don't want to talk to people. And it's like, that's what's going to get you to where you can automate it and not have to worry about, oh, the conversions weren't there.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who counters that point with, well, I look small if I'm the one responding and I'm the one involved and I'm the one that shows up on the call? Like, I want to give the sense that I'm a little more important or I'm a little harder to get by installing some of these barriers. Like, what's your response to that type of approach?
I would say it depends on your conversions. Like, do you want to make money now, or do you want to appear bigger than you are and hope that that'll eventually pay off for you? I'm like, I'm all about how can I get the income and remove the barriers as quickly as possible. So
yeah.
And it's all in how you position it too. If like I take calls and people are like, oh my gosh, you're the founder. And like it builds like this even bigger trust factor, because there's so many agencies out there where you never can get the founder on the phone. So yeah, I say focus on the money-making tasks, whatever's gonna get you there faster, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I say relationships over everything. Like if I
Yeah.
just spend money and time on, will this get me closer in my relationships, then
Mhm.
it's a yes. And then if it's like, you know, things that we benefit from, I say there has to be a clear benefit to an automation that
Mhm.
benefits the client first and foremost. But if it benefits us without sacrificing a benefit to the client, then it might be a
Right.
good idea. But it's like, what problem is this really solving for, and what's the price of it is what we always have to
Mhm.
look at. Like, what's the price of this automation? Are we sacrificing a little bit of quality, but we're able to increase it over here or increase output? Like, is it worth it?
Right.
Um, I love that the companies are called AutomateMe. Again, that's always associated with a positive thing, but I think that you have to do it in the right way with the right intention.
Yes. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
where yes, 1,000%. We could do a whole
I know. I could
another
about a
show
whole
on
thing with
just
that.
that.
Whole thing with that, not to mention AI. Not going
Yes.
to go down
Oh
that,
my gosh,
that
yes.
path today. That's a whole
No,
thing. But going back to the messaging, right?
yeah.
Messaging. I admittedly had a bit of this. It's probably a limiting belief. I've always kind of been in the camp of it's hard to sell high ticket on social media,
Mm.
and it's hard to convert high ticket on social media. It is definitely more of a journey, and I feel like they get on the first couple steps on the bus and you take them there eventually,
Mhm.
but I find that it's harder to do that. And I actually had, when I was at the Hormozis, I had their paid media manager basically call me out and be like, no, you can do whatever
Mm.
you want on ads. You can do whatever you want on social. It's just how you do it. What's
Yeah.
your take on it in terms of high ticket and finding like really high level clients on a platform like Instagram?
Love that question. So I'm in the same boat as whoever that was talking to you
Hmm.
mentioned. I've been able to get, four-figure clients that didn't even know me 3 days prior. And they're like, I don't know how I'm already paying you, but I want you to teach me how you're doing this too. So it really is, the thing with it is like you have to have your messaging positioned to somebody who's already actively searching for the solution that you offer. And then you're then only needing to position yourself as how you're more effective, faster, easier, whatever, better than the competition that they're already interviewing. Now, there's also the long game content of building that know, like, and trust factor through your social media content. And those people who aren't quite ready, 100%, that's going to build the relationship so that when they are ready, they'll reach out to you. But the mistake that I see with social media content is people try to actually sell their high ticket offer on their content. And I don't recommend that. I recommend opening their eyes to the fact that you have a more effective solution and speak to, I was working with my client the other day and we did X, Y, and Z, which really helped her get A, B, and C result and benefit. Then people are like, oh, you do this for a living? Wait, you have paying clients who are like that? Wait, I need that help. And that builds that curiosity marketing where people then want to reach out to you. And then once you get them on a call or you get them into an evergreen webinar that then pitches your program, that's how you get that high ticket sale. So it's not just like, buy this expensive thing from this content piece.
Yeah. I think it is still a journey, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot easier I say easier to convert, especially with paid ads, convert something that's like low commitment. So a freebie, or direct them somewhere to a sales page, direct them to, a lower ticket offer. Maybe not, for me, like maybe not 5 grand a month. Like, come pay me 5 grand a month for this. I
Right.
feel like that has to be led into with enough trust, right? You have to build the trust first before someone converts that. Now, are there people that might buy that? Maybe. But I think that the more effective strategy would be to send them on a journey where that ends up being the offer that gets promoted, but they really hone the messaging first of what content you want them to see
Mm-hmm.
so that they enroll in like that trust journey with you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's where just the more the better you understand your client, the easier that becomes to create, essentially having your, like, let's say you're running ads and then that person goes and follows you on social media. If you have your content pieces overcoming the objections that might be limiting them from booking a call with you or investing into your 5K a month offer, that's going to essentially automate the process of building that know, like, and trust factor without you having a ton of one-on-one conversations with them. So yes, that works. And yes, there's also people who are actively searching for what you have to offer. And as soon as they binge consume a few pieces of your content, listen to your podcast, they're like, oh my gosh, Shannon, she's my girl. I'm ready to pay.
Yeah. I actually say I can speak to that wholeheartedly. This happened recently where like that actually happened where now this might not be a compliment to me, but it was like someone approached me and they were like, I can't figure out how I'm supposed to pay you. Like how I'm supposed to work with you, how I'm supposed
Mm,
to right, because I was basically just giving away this content. I have the podcast, I have these other things,
yeah,
and in my mind, everyone knows what I do
right. Of
because
course.
we
You
all
always
have
think that.
egos and we think that everyone sees every
Yeah.
piece of content we ever make.
Right.
And speaking of which, I got to repeat more content. I got to repost things because
Hmm.
like who am I to think that everybody's been following along since day one and they're just like every episode, everything,
Right.
right? And those who have, thank you. Uh, but it's selfish and kind of it's unrealistic to assume that everybody sees everything that you do and that
Mhm.
knows everything about what you offer.
Yes.
So, you know, how do you balance that in with, you know, with your content? Because you want to give value. People always say
Mhm.
give value, but sometimes you have to work in like this is what I do or this is how I serve people. People say don't sell in the Instagram feed. You know, they sell in stories, let's say. What
Mhm.
have you seen work well to actually directly convert off of social media platforms?
So there's a couple different things or directions we could go with that. So specifically for content in your feed, I see you're able to sell all day long in there because like the thing that you mentioned where people are like, I don't know how to pay you or what's your paid offer. That's one of the problems a lot of times people have is they're giving, and they forget to tell people how they can take that next step. And it's not a sell. It's more so just an informative, like I recommend once a week having something where you're like, hey, this is how you take the next step with me, or hey, do you want A, B, and C? Because
Hmm.
how much results are they really going to get from a social media post versus you one
Yeah.
on one or being in your container of however you work with your paid clients? It's a
Yeah.
totally different transformation, and there's so many people out there who would benefit from it, and we're just not telling people enough. And if you treat every piece of content as though it's going to somebody brand new for the most part, and have that idea that they've never read something from you before, it helps you not assume.
Mm. Yeah. That's one thing that I've been trying to work on lately and been conscious of is like if you go live, introduce yourself.
Mm.
Like who knew,
I
right?
hate introducing myself. I always forget it, but yeah, it's 100%.
Yeah, I have to go like, "Hi, this is Shannon Weinstein," and I'm like, then in my mind, I'm like, "Of course they know who I am. It's my channel, and then
Right?
it's my handle. Like that's my
Yeah.
name." But then you go like, it couldn't hurt
Yeah.
because you don't know. It just cuts out the you know who the hell is this? What does she do? What's going on? Like just tell them.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with telling them again. If they already know, cool. They won't be bothered. If
No,
they
if
don't know,
anything,
they
they'll be
just
like, "Oh,
told them.
yeah, I need it." Like, I've had so many times where I'm like, I saw somebody's feed or I saw something, I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's somebody that I wanna stay connected with." And then, like, you forget who that person is. And, yeah, being able to be front and center and reminding people all the time, people forget. Like, I don't remember what I posted 3 weeks ago. Of course, my followers aren't going to, even if they
No,
the 10% that maybe saw it. So, yeah.
exactly. And it's just so important to. I get back to the messaging thing of understanding where your client's at or
Mhm.
your audience, your follower, whatever that may be, your prospect, knowing where they're coming from and where you're meeting them
Yeah,
because they may not be problem aware.
right.
They may like your content but not really understand how they fit into the solution or how
Mhm.
you can help them in particular. And you never know which one message is going to resonate. Like
Right.
what way you're going to say it that just gets like those 3 or 4 people or those 10 or 12 people to go, "Oh," and like strike the nerve.
Mhm.
And I think that we cast out the, you know, we cast it out and we say this has got to catch people and it doesn't and we go, "Shoot." And we don't keep iterating enough in
Right.
my opinion. I think that
Yeah.
we just go, "My offer sucks because I
Yes.
tried to sell it, I tried to launch it and the offer must suck." And it's
Mhm.
like maybe it's your pole, not the
Yeah.
ocean. You know, maybe it's something different. How do you kind of help clients through that in terms of refining the messaging and determining what works?
Yeah. I love that. That is so, 1,000% true. Everyone write that down, what she just said.
Your
Um,
offer doesn't suck.
no,
Try
because that's
saying it differently.
yes. That so many people do that and they get trapped in this always pivoting their offer like, "Oh, wait, that didn't work or it got me one sale, so now I need to go do this over here," and they spend so much of their time building a brand new offer versus, like, if you look at big companies out there, they'll just have something like saying new and approved, and they literally, like, change the packaging. They change how
Yeah.
it's wrapped, but it's the same product. So that's where you wanna start is don't change your offer, change how you're wrapping it, and that's gonna hit differently. And, like, when you're testing content angles on social media, a big thing people end up doing is we know what the real solution is. Like, for me, I know usually it's messaging is off with their offer. It's not necessarily their offer, right? But they're not ready to hear that. They're just like, how do I go viral on social media and how do I get more views? So it's like you have to remember to speak to where that person is right now. And then, like you said, they might not be solution aware. And you have to do that journey for them
Mhm.
and build that bridge for them. And when you test out enough things, you're going to find the hook that gets them to actually be interested in your offer. And at that point, maybe you'll be like, okay, well, now that they're inside my program, I'm seeing where the holes are, I'm seeing where the gaps are in my program, I can fine tune it or make it even better. But yeah, you will save so much time if you just spend more time fine tuning how you pitch your offer instead of building a brand new one.
And also, like, don't get too important
Mm,
to go and like DM somebody and be like, "Why didn't you buy?"
right?
That it
Yeah,
takes balls.
it does. Yes.
It do take balls,
Yeah.
but I've done it, and
Nice.
I've braced myself for the answer,
Yeah.
and I've gone, "Okay, listen, I'm ready for whatever you got. Throw it at me. Like, we're cool." I sent it in a voice note too, by the way, just to be like, "Hey,
This is a real person.
yeah, this is Shannon. I sent this link over to you, and I noticed that you didn't buy it. Not judging you, totally okay, totally understand. But for me to make this better, what could I have done differently on the page, or how could I have approached it where this would have been more connected to what you were looking for?" And I get great feedback from that, but you
Nice.
have to be willing to ask, and it's not easy.
Yeah. That is such good advice. And that's why when I have people who are kind of getting into maybe like the high ticket coaching space and they're really new, it's like I tell them, get on the calls with people, get in conversations with people in the DMs because you're 100% right. Like once you start hearing what they have to say, you're like, oh my gosh, I totally missed that. Or I didn't even think about that. Or I assumed,
Hmm.
and a lot of
Yeah.
times it's so much simpler than we realize. And we try to make things
Yep.
fancy. We try to make up these amazing terms. And it's like, no, just go back to basics.
Like acronyms no one understands,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And it's like,
Makes
no,
no sense. And
simplicity converts.
yeah, and I did this recently too. That along those lines was at the advice of someone I met at networking events, just like what we do, is I said, "Oh, I'm going to host like market research calls." And what I
Mm,
do is I would pay people to do this, but they were so gracious enough to do this for me. It was for 15 minutes. I actually had them live read, like blind react to my sales page,
interesting.
and or my Instagram or something, and I'm like, "What do you think I sell?" Or
Mm,
like, what does this give you? Because I was also like, I got their profile a bit of like, are they kind of an ideal client? Number
yeah.
one, because I don't care if they're not,
I
right?
know,
Or
right? It's like,
you
mom,
shouldn't.
thanks, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But to some degree, they're an ideal client, or at least I value their opinion. You have to, first of all, take critiques from people whose opinion you actually value.
Hmm.
Second of all, be willing to just like, as I put it, like go naked
Yeah.
and just be
Oh,
like, show you the
it's
thing and
vulnerable.
just have them live react to it or whatever. And I go, what are my, based on like my Instagram, what do you think my core messages are? Or who do you think I work with? Or what do you think I do? And it's, I haven't done that exercise, but I want to now. I think after talking to you, especially, I'm just like, I want somebody to just be like, what do I sell? What do I do? Who am I? And kind of play this little game of telephone of, interesting. That is
Yeah.
how people perceive me, or that's how these people perceive me. What contributed to that?
I
And
love
figure
that.
that all out. It's again, this sounds like that sounds like a lot of work. But if you're going to spend work on social, taking
Right.
shots in the dark is going to take you way more time, right?
So much more time. Yeah. It's like
Way more.
doing this market research and honing in on that. It makes content creation easier because you know what actually converts. You know what
Yeah.
will actually work with your clients.
And by
Totally.
all means, hire a marketing company like Megan's, right? But maybe I bet you, if someone has done something like that before they work with you,
Mhm.
you're even more dialed in, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you just mentioned, that's what I do on a lot of the calls. Like, I'll be pulling people's sales pages up in real time or their social media, and then I'll be asking questions, and they're like, "See, this is my problem. Like, people get confused, people don't know." So it's like, but if they have that more fine tuned, or let's say they have their offer and they've sold several to people, it's like we can reverse engineer that and collect that data and be like, okay, what worked? Why did it work? Instead of just being like, I don't know, I got lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, something worked.
Yeah,
So let's not change anything about what I did
yeah,
because something worked in that big pool of stuff that I was throwing
exactly.
spaghetti
Yeah,
at. Something worked, so we're going to stick with it. So Megan, this is awesome. I could talk to you all day about this stuff and I love it. If people do want to work with you, number one, what type of person you want to work with and what can you do for them in terms of solutions? Because we're talking about messaging.
yeah,
Message away. Tell us what you do.
absolutely. Yeah, so a big part of what we do over here is we like to do the heavy lifting for our clients. So, there's a lot of courses out there. There's a lot of things teaching you how to do these things, but until you get one-on-one feedback or somebody actually stepping in and doing it for you so you see what's actually converting, it just speeds up the process. So that's what we do is like I work with coaches, course creators, basically service-based businesses, anyone who has a service-based offer, and helps them with number one, knowing what type of content is going to bring them ideal client followers. Number two, how to get those ideal client followers to actually want to get information about your paid offers. And then how do you pitch your paid offer so that it actually sells? Those are the
Yeah.
three things I work on. And then my husband, he's the tech guru behind the scenes. So he's the one that does all the automations, the funnel sales pages, the email automations, all that fun stuff so that you can ultimately step away a little bit and have it working on repeat.
Absolutely love that. And how can people get in touch with you to learn more?
I am on Instagram. I'm always in the DMs there. So at Meghan Clor, and I'd be happy to connect there.
Amazing. Guys, make sure you follow Megan. Links in the show notes as well and in the description. Megan, thank you so much for joining me today. Had a blast with you.
Yes, it was amazing. Always great.